Today we are in the house because it is in the 40s and the wind's blowing 20 something miles an hour. The leaves are doing, and I was out there earlier, but didn't catch anything. But the wind started picking up, and it, as you know, unless you're casting, 3/4 of an ounce to keep anything on the bottom, the wind just blows your line everywhere. But beyond that, I just want to talk about this Contra braid here. Now, this braid is $9.96 for 150 yards. I've got a few different sizes of it. The lowest I have is 8. The highest I have is 30. I do have 10, 15, which is on that bait caster there. It works pretty well. I'm not, if you know anything about me, you know I am not a braid guy. I do not recommend anybody use braid. I absolutely hate it. I really do. But if I'm going to compare it to the other braids I've used, like Power Pro, I've tried out the J Braid. I've tried the Spider Wire one. I've tried out, all the Power Pro ones I think I've tried. The Cast King I tried out. I tried out Fissy Funds. There's been a bunch that I've tried out, and they're all about the same. The braid's all about the same. When you get into the 8 strand, which these are 4 strands, you have a tendency to get wind knots, which is the problem with that rod there. That rod has a big old wind knot at the top up here that you can't see. And that's why the lure's just kind of dangling with the line wrapped all around the rod. When it came back at me, I went to reel up real quick to recast it back out to go back at a fish. I thought I was going to miss there, and it tied the tip to a knot. And I've snapped tips doing that. That happens with all braids. That's why I just don't like braid. But for overall use, this rod here is a favorite rod. It's a 7.2 medium heavy, which is it is a stiff rod. It really is. And I wanted something that kind of matches. It's going to be my bulk rod, which is only 8 pound on it. But for what I need, that is my rod. I can haul stuff out. I can cast out a good long ways, and I can set the hook on it from way out and get the stuff in. So this is really what I wanted on this rod, was to have something I could cast out a good ways and still muscle the fish kind of back in. This braid allowed me to do that. It casts through these micro guides, which this rod has micro guides on it. You can't tell, but there are some micro guides on it. And it sings through this rod, no problem. I mean, I get some nice far casts with it, even with a 4 strand. And it does really well. The 8 pound, that's what I have on there, is working out good. It's nice and sensitive. I can get it out there a good ways, and I can feel the bites from out there. And it's got enough backbone. I can set the hook at I don't know, what's a 20, 30 yard cast, 40 yard cast, and not even that, 30 yards, let's say, 40 yards. I can cast it out and reel up the slack and hit a fish and get it in. Where my mono will stretch a little bit when I'm out that far, and it doesn't do quite the job that I need. But $10 for 150 yards. It comes with its own line chingadera here. I was going to show you on this 8 pound if I can get it open here one-handed. It has a special line spooler on it where you can stick it to something, your car, the side of your car, the refrigerator, whatever, glass, your window, and spool the line up, and it works out really well. If you look here, see? It's got that, and you stick it onto something, so now you're free-handed. And I'm keeping it because this actually comes out, and I can probably stick it on another spool of other line I'm using. As long as it functions, that's all that really matters. But yeah, it's worked out well for $9.96. I think it is at Walmart. It's a great braid to try out. It is a four strand braid, which means it's not going to be as limp as an 8 strand or a 9 strand braid. But for the money, it is hard to beat. And that comes from a guy who does not like braid. I am not a braid guy. I'll tell you now. If I could have braid off all my rods, I would. And I try them because, everyone tells you, you got to have braid. Braid's the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, not in my opinion. But this Contra braid isn't bad. It's actually pretty good. 4 strand, works well. Like I said, the 8 pound is on this rod here. It works really well. On this here, this cluster right here, I think was the 15, which it kicked back on me out of some lily pads, and that's what tied the tip into a knot. And I didn't realize it until I started crank down, and I cranked the knot into oblivion. I have to cut it off, and it irritated me, so I threw it to the side and used another rod. But overall, great braids for the money. I mean, it's hard to beat them. Knot strength has been fine. I haven't lost any knots. Matter of fact, it ties around the rod tip really well. As with any braid, it's subjected to wind knots. It'll get wind knots just like the rest of them will. It fades. It will fade. Like if you look here, it's kind of faded up. That green is faded really light. I mean, it looks like this new. Well, it's kind of not new because I got the old stuff over top. But anyway, it does fade out. Get yourself a little magic marker, not magic marker, a permanent marker, and do 2-3 feet of it to get it black again, and it'll work out. But for the money, there you go, man. Contra Braid, hard to beat for $9.96, 150 yards, and if you got to have Braid, there you go. It's a good alternative to everything that's out there, and it'll work just as good as the $30 for 150 yard brands as well. So give it a shot. Tell me what you think.